I don't think I've ever done 2 videos in one day. You guys are so lucky. So lucky you get to listen to my beautiful insight. I mean, look, I'm talking about the pro teams. I'm probably not even going to be casting any of them come Fort Worth, unfortunately. But, you know, I just thought I'd give my thoughts again. Here we go. We're going to talk about Pool C. I've already talked about Pool B today. Talked about A another time. We're going to talk about D. I'm not going to say tomorrow. It'll be later on in the week because I've got Spitfire tomorrow. So that'll be the main thing out tomorrow. And then we're going to have the predictions for the tournament. We're going to have the predictions for the ARM bracket. It's just content coming out my eyeballs at the minute, to be honest with you. But let's talk about Pool C. You know, Pool C had so much potential to be very, very interesting for a long, long time. Until the whole Midnight and Accelerate thing happened, of course, which really toned it down a little bit for me. Because, I mean, look, I would have expected Accelerate to be sitting in 4th in this group. But between Midnight, Splyce, and Luminosity, I think this would have been a great, great group. But realistically, now, due to the changes, I fully expect Splyce and Luminosity to pretty much top this group fairly, well, I don't want to say fairly comfortably, but relatively comfortably. It's a toss-up between who does actually finish top between Splyce and LG, but let's get talking about the games. So, Splyce v Accelerate is the first one. Accelerate versus LG is the first one I'm going to talk about. Now, I think you'll see the running theme I have with the Midnight and Accelerate games is it's a bit of an unknown quantity, isn't it? Because the new Accelerate roster is essentially a couple of guys from Midnight, a couple of guys from Accelerate. So you don't know how they're going to actually work together. Realistically, you know, I'm looking at Brack from Accelerate to really be the dominant one here. He was very, very good in that Midnight team, and I'll give him major props for that. Jet Li was solid in there as well. But looking at this team, it's going to take some time to gel. It's a completely new team, and going up against LG, it's probably going to go the exact way I expect it. Realistically, I mean, look, we can't really look at the stats from Midnight and Accelerate at all. I mean, it makes no difference. Look, they may be able to snatch a hard point after LG's hard point was not really that great. But outside of that, I'm going to go 3-1 Luminosity. It's going to be quick going over Accelerate and Midnight's games because, I said, they've got a week to practice with brand new teams. And it's going to be difficult going up against two very, very solid teams in LG and Splyce. So in that one, first game, Accelerate LG, I'm going to give that 3-1 to LG. Splyce v Accelerate. Same thing. Honestly, I feel as if this could be 3-0. Splyce are quite consistent over their game modes. I'll just rhyme off their hardpoint, S&D, and control. I don't want to say consistent, because if anything, it's inconsistent. But at the same time, I would say they're well-rounded is probably the best way to put it. So 7-6 on hardpoint, 5-5 on S&D, 5-4 on S&D, and 4-3 on control. That's based off a second bad week from Splyce, to be honest with you. If it was based off the first, they look very, very good. And I expected them to maybe pick it up a little bit. But we spoke to Mark and he just thought they played badly the second week. So maybe nothing to be concerned about too much just yet. However, you know, they've got a well-rounded game. And I think that means Accelerate are probably going to get 3-0'd. Again, you can talk about LG's weaknesses in hardpoint. How prevalent are they anymore? You just don't know, but you can maybe give a hard point over to Accelerate. But then Splyce, I think, are a different ball game. I think they're going to be much harder to beat. Splyce v LG would be really interesting, but I think Accelerate are going to struggle more against Splyce. I think Splyce will 3-0 them, actually. So let's move into some other games. Let's talk about Midnight's games, actually. Midnight versus Accelerate. Okay, we'll leave Midnight and Accelerate. Midnight versus LG, you know, it's the similar sort of thing. I mean, if this was the former Midnight roster, then Midnight VLG would have been super interesting. But look, Midnight's strengths are probably Parasite and Lacefield. For me, from what I've seen from these players on this roster. And just to remind you guys of the Midnight roster, because it has changed. It is Llama God, Saints, Blast, Lacefield, and Parasite. Now, I absolutely put most of the stock in this roster into Lacefield and Parasite. But you look at LG and they've got a star-studded lineup across the board. So I think LG will win this fairly comfortably, potentially losing a hard point. You know, and one of the things that I'm going to touch on about LG for most of this video is the fact that I haven't seen John be John this year yet, really. I mean, they've struggled a little bit. A lot of people were placing it on Classic and Slack, the reason they were doing so badly, but realistically, you expect John to be picking up some of that slack, no pun intended, just to help these guys out on the slaying department. You'd expect him to be putting the numbers up so that they can't put the numbers up, if anything. So, look, I expect more out of John, but in this game against Midnight, I think, you know, if he plays as well as he can, it's going to be a fairly comfortable 3-1. As said, hardpoint is something that LG haven't necessarily played well at so far this year. And that's something they could fall upon against this somewhat experienced lineup in Midnight, but they're going to need some time to get together, I think. I think as time goes on through the tournament, Midnight will get better. However, LG, I think, will be too tall of an order in the groups to talk about anyway. Same with Splyce. Midnight v Splyce, you know, Splyce have cemented themselves as one of the best teams in the world right now. Honestly, they're very, very good, but this is a good opportunity for them to get a decent win, get some good maps under their belts. Again, Lacefield and Parasite are who I'll be looking at, but realistically, Parasite's going up against Accuracy. I think it would be tough on an AR battle on that side of things. I think realistically, Aqua in there as well is going to cause problems going up against Llama, but on the SMG side of things, as I said, you got Lacefield in there, you got Blast in there, you got Sense in there, but I just do not think they even remotely compete with Splyce. Look, I mean, the thing is, I think Splyce do better against Midnight and Accelerate. I think they probably 3-0 both of them, and that's what I'm going to say, 3-0 to Splyce in this one. I think LG struggle maybe a little bit more against Midnight and Accelerate, but should still comfortably see it out. Let's talk about Midnight v Accelerate. Now, I mean, this is the game that I think everyone will be in the chat bashing the organizations, but I think it's a tough one to call. Just to remind you guys of the Accelerate roster, if you're not aware. It is Skies, Emery's, Profizi, Brack, and Jet Li. So it's just an amalgamation of Midnight and Accelerate rosters. Found themselves on Accelerate, but I think, you know, both these teams are thrown together, and it's going to be a case of who is adapting quicker. I'm going to take a stab in the dark at this one and just sort of lean on the experience side of the thing, of the, I wrote down here 3 to Accelerate, but I feel like it's a very, very difficult one to call. I think the experience of Midnight might help them, but what I don't think will help them is the fact that everyone on Accelerate has been in the Pro League so far this season and has been playing against the best, which I will think will help them, but it's 2 brand new teams, which is why it's so difficult. I think I'm going to give it 3-2 to Midnight, just based on experience, and hopefully they can adapt quicker. And if they do, I think they'll take this game up against Accelerate. Let's talk about the big game that everyone really wants to talk about in this group. It's a weird group, isn't it, after all the changes? Splyce v LG. Now, this should be for first, and I think it absolutely will be. But as far as statistics go, let's break it down. Splyce, I said, very well rounded. 7 and 6 in hardpoint, 5 and 4 in search and destroy, and 4 and 3 in control. LG were a little different. They did very poorly in hardpoint. S&D, their S&D was 5 and 6, so not that bad, but 6 and 1 in control from LG is really going to be something they can definitely rely on. When I look at the actual matchups in this one as well, in terms of people going up against each other, let's talk about the ARs first. So Splyce, you've got Aqua and Accuracy going up against Formal and Gunless. So the sensible guy in here would probably lean towards Formal and Gunless, let's be honest. Flex, Looney against Classic. You know, for me, I mean, Looney's more of an AR, so is Classic, to be fair, but I think realistically I'd give that over to Looney, but then it comes down to the SMGs. Temp has been one of the best players in this game so far, and Jerd on his day is unplayable, and I think that's where I'm going to give the edge just to Splyce. I think in hardpoint, we need to see more from John. If John can play at the level that we know John can play at, then this is a winnable game for LG. Absolutely is. But I think realistically, you look at the SMGs of Splyce, and I think they're probably going to dominate. I think if Jerd can be consistent like we have seen him be, maybe not so much in the second week of the league, then this could be comfortable for Splyce, if anything. But Temp, for me, is really the guy to go up against John. If John doesn't play well, Temp will take over, and I feel like Splyce will win this one. I'm going to give it 3-2 to them. I'm really not sure which way to go in terms of maps. The only one I would really be pretty confident on is LG win the control based off, I mean, just the stats, to be honest, but it really could go either way. This is a very, very difficult game to call, I will say that, and it's a difficult one to call for who finishes first in that case. And I'm going to give it a Splyce 3-2 in the end. A very, very close game, I'm predicting. But other than that, you know, as I said, Midnight and Accelerate, I think are going to struggle in this group. It's really going to come down to Splyce and Luminosity who finish first. I think a lot of people will be sort of thinking maybe writing off Midnight and Accelerate maybe a little bit too much, but they're brand new rosters, essentially. The majority of these guys haven't played together this year. Or I mean, I know Parasite has teamed with Saints at some point. Lacefield was on G2. Yeah, okay, so a couple of them have been together, but I think it's a brand new team. You've had like a week to go before Fort Worth to get your practice in. Yes, they will get better as time goes on, but realistically, I expect them to be at rock bottom. I would say that Midnight might just about come third based on their experience, based on the caliber of player they are, and Accelerate may struggle, but will get better as well. LG finishing second behind Splyce. So there you go. There's your Pool C breakdown from myself. We're going to have Pool D probably coming out on Thursday. We're going to have 2 videos out tonight, this one included. We're going to have Pool B will have been put out about the same time as Pool C. I said Pool D will be on Thursday. We've got Spitfire on Tuesday. Wednesday, we're going to have the AM tournament predictions. Friday, we're going to have the final tournament. Something like that. Well, there's going to be a lot of videos. Hit subscribe, like the video, leave a comment as well. And we'll see you for so much more content this week. There's so much, so much.